Brazil's President Lula da Silva delivered a scathing critique of American foreign policy today, accusing the United States of believing they own the world. The leftist leader specifically targeted the Trump administration's increasingly aggressive international stance, marking a significant deterioration in U.S.-Brazil relations. Da Silva's comments come as tensions rise across Latin America over Washington's interventionist policies and economic pressure tactics. The Brazilian president's criticism reflects growing frustration among regional leaders who view Trump's approach as undermining sovereignty and diplomatic norms. This public rebuke from South America's largest economy signals a potential shift in hemispheric alliances, with Brazil positioning itself as a counterweight to U.S. influence. Da Silva's words carry particular weight given Brazil's role as a BRICS member and its historical partnership with Washington on regional security issues. As the Trump administration doubles down on its America First doctrine, expect more friction with traditional allies who feel sidelined by unilateral decision-making. A cryptic Truth Social post from President Trump following devastating attacks on Iranian gas fields is raising questions about U.S.-Israeli coordination on military action against Tehran. The message, posted hours after the strikes, suggests deeper alignment between Washington and Jerusalem than previously acknowledged publicly. Intelligence analysts are parsing Trump's words for clues about whether the U.S. provided intelligence support or advance approval for the operation. The timing and tone of the post indicate the administration may be signaling tacit endorsement of Israel's escalating campaign against Iranian infrastructure. This apparent coordination comes as both nations face mounting pressure over civilian casualties from retaliatory strikes. Trump's social media communications have become a key diplomatic channel, often revealing policy positions before official statements. The gas field attacks represent a significant escalation in the shadow war between Israel and Iran, with potential global energy implications. How this U.S.-Israeli partnership evolves will determine whether the region moves toward wider conflict or negotiated de-escalation. The Trump administration announced a sweeping reorganization that will transfer federal student loan management from the Education Department to the Treasury, fundamentally reshaping how millions of Americans access higher education funding. The three-phase transition will eventually include oversight of the free application for federal student aid, known as FAFSA, affecting nearly every college-bound student in America. This move represents the most significant restructuring of federal education finance in decades, with Treasury officials arguing they can provide more efficient loan servicing and collection. Critics worry the shift prioritizes debt recovery over student support services, potentially making loan forgiveness programs harder to navigate. The reorganization comes as student debt has reached crisis levels, with Americans owing over $1.7 trillion in educational loans. Education advocacy groups fear the Treasury's focus on fiscal management could undermine borrower protections and counseling services currently provided by Education Department staff. The transition timeline remains unclear, but the changes could impact loan applications and repayment options for the upcoming academic year. A small West Bank community mourned today as 4 Palestinian women were laid to rest, victims of an Iranian missile attack that struck a hair salon in the occupied territory. The tragic incident highlights how Palestinian civilians are caught in the crossfire of escalating regional conflicts they have no control over. The women were reportedly getting their hair done for a wedding celebration when the missile struck, turning a moment of joy into devastating loss for their families. This attack underscores the complex dynamics of Middle Eastern warfare, where Iranian retaliation against Israeli targets often impacts Palestinian communities living under occupation. Local residents expressed anger at both Iranian military tactics and Israeli policies that they say make them vulnerable to such strikes. The funeral drew hundreds of mourners who demanded accountability from all parties involved in the regional conflict. International humanitarian organizations are calling for better protection of civilian areas, particularly in densely populated Palestinian territories. As tensions continue escalating between Iran and Israel, Palestinian communities remain tragically exposed to the consequences of a conflict that extends far beyond their borders. Renowned Israeli historian Elon Papp issued a stark warning today about his country's political leadership, describing them as driven by messianic aspirations that recognize no boundaries in their pursuit of territorial expansion. Papp, a controversial figure in Israeli academia, argues that this ideological fervor has replaced pragmatic diplomacy in government decision-making processes. He contends that Israel's current political elite operates with an unconstrained mindset that views military action and settlement expansion as divinely sanctioned rather than politically calculated moves. This messianic worldview, according to Papp, explains the increasingly aggressive policies toward Palestinian territories and neighboring countries that have drawn international condemnation. His analysis comes as Israel faces mounting criticism over civilian casualties and settlement activities that violate international law according to numerous UN resolutions. Papp's comments reflect growing concern among moderate Israelis about their government's direction and its impact on long-term security and international standing. The historian's warnings about ideologically driven leadership echo similar concerns raised by former Israeli security officials who fear unchecked expansion will ultimately undermine the state's survival.